Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, David. How are you doing?
Oh, we're okay. Yeah.
Long time no see.
I know it's been a hot minute. You can tell because I can't run the thing properly, and I leave overlays on that shouldn't be there.
Oh well, it happens.
To the best of us. Yeah. Took a hit to the head, and then had to take a few weeks off.
Yeah. You're not allowed to slip and hit your head. That's not allowed anymore.
Right? It's frowned upon for sure.
Yes.
But we're here. So good morning,
And
everybody.
and there's a whole bunch of people here. We got Victor. We got Dominic. We got Stig.
No. We've got the Stig.
Oh yes, the Stig.
That's great. Yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for showing up on a Sunday morning, or I guess it's evening or whatever, or afternoon or night. Just Sunday. Or it could be Monday.
Morning. Sorry about the furnace in the background. It's cold outside.
Yeah, we're Canadian and it's winter, so you're gonna hear our furnaces running for sure.
Yep.
So before we get too far into it,
I'm adjusting my lighting.
Greg's gonna adjust his lighting. I'm just gonna throw this up while Greg's doing that. We'd like to thank all of our wonderful Patreon supporters. Everybody on this list is awesome. Helps, thanks for being a true supporter. But everybody else, thank you so much for supporting us. We do it we appreciate it. It lets us do things for the channel, around the channel, websites, that kind of stuff, the back end. So we sure appreciate all you guys' support. And I know Greg showed off a few. We bought 2 of them. Greg has one of them. I have one of them, but we have those sprites. We'll probably have a video together during the Christmas break, I would imagine. To get some time in there. And
I gotta put it on at some point, but I gotta kind of reconfigure which way the wires go and whatnot. So
I sure wish it was the ocean, Dominic. It would be way better than the bitter cold.
Yeah, we're quite a ways away from any ocean.
Yeah.
So we're in the middle of the. We got a river.
But you shouldn't go in it because it's upriver from the sewage plant. Ugh. Anyway, but yeah, so we got some stuff coming that way. We're still working on the workshop stuff, but that obviously got slowed down when I headbutted my garage.
Yes.
But that's coming too. So hopefully we're still on time to fly for that one in the next immediate future here. We'll drop a link in the Patreon and in the Patreon Discord. So if you're not a Patreon and you want in the Patreon Discord, there's lots of lovely people. We always try to help each other if we don't have
or share things,
injuries, and share things and get some cool prints going around. So yeah,
absolutely,
that's that thing. So I live so close to the coast that I can see the ferry. Oh yeah. Tease, but isn't it kind of cool though? Like, it's not like a tropical coast. It's, you know what I mean? It's a coast, but it's cool.
It's winter.
Yeah,
it would be cool.
This guy.
I'm here all week.
So I'm gonna flip over to kind of like our first discovery. So every now and again, I Google the words new 3D printing slicers. What's new, right? Because we talk a lot. We talk a lot of Kira. We talk a lot of Prusa.
We do,
but we don't talk a lot of Lychee. And
no, well, we did when there was a little controversy about the boards being locked and this and that. But that wasn't Lychee that was locking the boards, right? That was it Lychee? No, it was the other one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
can't even
Yeah,
remember.
I'm blanking on that, but yeah. So we've talked about lychee, but not in this
Yeah.
context.
So this is kind of cool. So this is I just brought up the Lychee website. Greg can actually see what I see today, which is great. Um, so this statement right here. So obviously Lychee is for mostly resin printers. Um, Again, if you have that locked firmware, and it's not going to quite work for all of them unless you unlock it. But this was added. This filament beta, public filament beta. So you can slice FDM. Now we haven't sliced FDM prints yet because we only found it like.
I have.
Have you? Yeah.
I haven't printed
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Okay. We haven't completed the whole process from start to finish, but we do have it, and yeah, we're going to see how it works.
I've
but,
poked around in it.
Yeah.
I've tried. It's if you've ever used Fusion 360, it's webby. It's got a webby kind of interface to it.
Mm-hmm.
You can your zooming and whatnot is very Fusion-esque.
Yeah.
But the menus are going to take a little bit getting used to because they're not quite. They're kind of Prusa-esque, but
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a little bit of poking around to see what you get in the free version because there's actually multiple versions available. So you get the free version.
Yeah.
And then there's different tiers to subscribe.
Yep.
And with each tier that you subscribe to, you unlock different features, and like one gets rid of ads. So if you don't mind ads, you get the full free one. But
Yep. Boom.
there's different features that you can unlock, and they have quite a few printers. Like if you look just on the Creality, what do they have for any cubic? I didn't even look.
Yeah, let's check it out. But they have a ton. No, it's not hard. Like, so like we've done
Oh,
some
they
videos.
got the Predator. They got
They got everything.
Well,
Everything.
is the Chiron in there?
The Max is, so you could just change it.
Yeah, see, they don't.
But the Chiron's actually an old printer, right? So that's one thing that's happening too. Is like that one's actually dropping out of the line, and the new one's coming out. So,
I suppose.
But like, yeah, no, it's not.
What's another Prusa? Try Prusa. Just out of curiosity. Not that we have a.
No.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you got
there
the
you
Prusas.
What about
Big Q?
Voron?
There you go. They even have the Big Q printers. Those ones are usually Voron. So it looks like they got a
they don't have.
And that one kind of makes sense to me, honestly. Like Voron or I can't remember names right now, but like
artillery and like they've got lots of like. If you scroll down, there's lots in this list.
Yeah, and I mean
like FL Sun's in there, Spider, Two Trees.
This list actually trumps the list in Kira right now and Prusa.
Low Spot. Like there's a lot going on in here.
So we have here. We have not yet like Greg sliced something, right? And that's great, but we haven't actually gone in to tear profiles apart yet. So they might have this giant list, but it's quite possible that like the BitQ legend and the stuff in there, like the B1s and stuff, are all just Ender profiles, and they just relabeled it. Right.
Oh,
so
yeah. Well,
we don't know the customization behind it yet, I should say.
And I don't know if this is this all their own native slicer, or have they borrowed from the open source community?
Like we just kind of started looking at it, I guess, is what we're saying.
And then you get
tutorials, walkthroughs, all this lovely stuff, which is actually kind of nice if you've never used it. Lychee clipped in the words will come to me, but words are hard. CAD, some of the CAD features, so you can edit models a little bit inside of. But
you have to pay to get the fully unlocked version of that.
So I guess that's they give you a little bird. I want to print the bird.
I know.
Okay, I'm totally gonna say this, guys. We're gonna print the bird, and then we're gonna post the bird on our Discord server so you can see the results. But I mean, it looks just like a slicer should look, right? It's simple. You can toggle up here between filament, resin, and you have like the the layer the layer
Speaking's hard.
It is really hard. It's flushed out, right? And it's not surprising because Lychee has been around, and actually their slicer was really good for resin, right? Like it was a decent
I don't know.
slicer.
I've never sliced for resin, so.
Oh, trust me, it was pretty good for resin. But
Is that was that your resin
Yeah.
slicer of choice?
yeah, because I didn't upgrade my my Creality whatchamacoozer, LD001. I think.
Oh,
it
so
was.
it didn't lock you out of the.
So I could still use this. Yeah. I wish I could remember the thing, but so like Greg just mentioned, there is a cost to if you wanted to unlock the full version, and you might notice that I didn't have any ads anywhere.
Pie hole?
No, something new. And it works pretty good, but yeah, like I have a DNS ad blocker, so you won't see too many ads anywhere. But here's the
So yeah, the free version.
Yeah.
If you go down a little more, they kind of let you know what's in it, and then they unlock a few more things. Like you don't get the ads once you slice.
yeah.
So that's the one thing I noticed when I did my slice and went to kind of check it out.
Yeah.
I got a full screen ad,
It's like boom.
like for a printer. Like I can't even remember the printer
Oops.
because I was like so appalled.
That
But
wasn't me. I did not do that. But
Jeez.
you can see that like it's about right now it's 39, but it's usually 59. It's interesting to me that this one exists right now with the filament because when we were on the other page, boop, beta. So it's interesting to me that they're charging $40 a year for a beta.
Right.
Or I guess that's euros. Is that that? So and then it goes 60 euros, and then it's 7 or 80 euros.
Well, and they have a monthly versus I like if you go to monthly, it might go to the 59 euros kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, and then
No, it's discounted.
but it
You're
is
right.
more still because that 399 is more than. But so they're giving you 10 months if you buy a year. So I mean that's an interesting topic in itself. So we'll flip back here. Is how do you feel about paying for
I don't feel good about paying for it. Like it would have to be substantially better, like to the point of amazing compared to the free ones out there of Kira and Prusa. Because if it's not, then there's no reason really.
Yeah, and
Like
to be clear too,
I
Kira's
don't like
charges, right?
I don't like ads in Windows, and
Yeah.
they do put ads in Windows now, like just in the start menu and stuff. Like it's
Yeah.
annoying.
Like, and then you get like stock tickers and
Yes, I agree. Like, why pay for slicers when you can get
but
it
the
for
thing
free? I
is,
agree.
is
Stig.
Kira is not a free slicer anymore. To be clear,
Well, it
Kira
is.
has most of the features that you're used to for free.
Yeah.
But if you want to access the higher level features, you actually have to pay now.
Yeah,
And
but that's also for their. You get all their commercial support and this and that
Yeah.
for the. It's mainly meant for their. The paid one is mainly meant for their use with their printers, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and I think, I mean, we did talk about kind of the cost for Kira. So like the free Ultimaker Kira account here, we'll just flip back. I don't know why my camera's not on the other screen, but Greg's is. You can look at his face. So the free Kira gives you like print profiles, advanced settings for over 400, right? But then it doesn't do these. So like the paid version, this is the biggest one, the bottom one here, this increased stability. They actually have optimized the paid version a little more.
Well, and I think they just, they won't release. They'll do the patching and stuff for the essentials one first, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you get a package for deployment. I mean that makes sense because it's corporate.
Yeah.
Right.
And we
and
deal
that
with
sort of thing.
right? If we wanted to push it out, I don't even know what version we actually push out right now. But
Oh, it's old.
we
Yeah.
yeah, like if we wanted to push it out, we'd probably have to
Which,
package
which
it
is
ourselves. Or
which is silly. I think that should just be part of the executable, but whatever,
I
I
mean,
guess.
I know what you're saying, but I understand what they're doing too.
Verified plugins,
Um,
um,
yeah, see, and that's the other
only
one.
so
So
plugins through
you
marketplace.
might not
Okay.
think verified plugins is a big deal, but it is. And I use the example of like the Google Play Store on an Android phone versus the App Store
Yeah,
on an
yeah.
iPhone, right?
And
Everything on an iPhone is verified.
honestly,
Yeah.
nothing in the paid version besides for me the packaging piece jumps out at me as why I want to pay for it.
Yeah, and
Like
Stig
it
is right.
really doesn't.
There's no there's no actual ads popping up in your face and that kind of stuff. Helge just popped in. Hey, Helge.
It held.
So now, Dominic made a comment on I've heard Lychee Slicer has new supports that will rival tree supports, and I've heard this rumor for like 2 years.
Well, they're
But
not even in beta in that yet.
no, but
Like
they are
they're
coming.
it's supposedly coming.
Yeah.
I checked the releases today. There's no betas or anything, so hopefully they're working on it, and maybe in the new year we'll get some
Yeah.
release candidates or some alphas that we can try and see if it's
See
any
if it
better.
works. Yeah, and like if you guys want to follow the source of truth for that stuff, like not that it's wrong. Like I have heard the same thing, Dominic.
Yeah.
It is coming, but if you wanted to follow along to know the exact news, the GitHub is the best. Here's
Yeah.
the link for the GitHub in the chat.
Yeah, we
And
monitor those regularly just to see what's going on, see if there's something new that you guys need to know about.
yep.
But there's something we missed out on, David.
What do we miss?
There's the great holiday design off part 2.
The great holiday design of. Did we put it on the website?
It's on the website. I still haven't contacted because I wasn't feeling
Sponsors.
well this week. So
Yep. Why is there no
so
picture?
because we don't have a sponsor.
Well, oh, to
That's
be
the spot.
announced right there.
That's coming soon, hopefully.
So, I
So
have no idea what you did.
Tomorrow is the deadline for submitting your designs. I mean, that's the deadline so that we have enough time to print them for the live show next Sunday. So if you get them in after that, that doesn't mean you can't win. It just means that we may not be able to print them in time. So the actual closing date of the contest is December 16th. And then we will have the live stuff next Sunday, which is is it the 19th or the 18th?
18th.
Yeah, so the 18th is when we will do the draw and everything. So don't forget, it can be a clip, it could be a bauble, it can be a tchotchke, it can be whatever you want, as long as you've designed it. Something that you have designed, and it just has to fit in. We wanted to make it so that it conformed to pretty much every printer out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the size we went to 150 by 150 by 150 as the design size. So that way it can be printed by anyone, and then you can either send us a link to your Thingiverse Mini Factory wherever you've posted it, or you can send us the STL. Again, info@3dmakeit.ca. And yeah, so this is the year number 2 of the great design off.
Yep.
And so please enter, and we will be not too critical because
The dates are wrong on the website.
Oh, that should be 2022. The dates are right, the year is wrong.
So how you win is you first build a time machine. Okay? So then you
The dates are correct, the years are wrong. I forgot to edit. I edited the dates and I forgot the year. So it is actually this December, not last December.
yeah, this year. But yeah, other than that, yeah, and info at 3dmakeit.ca. So you get it in. If you're on the Discord, I suppose you can pop it in the Discord too. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just so we can get it. Yeah, I did miss that one, I think. I guess. I don't know.
That's okay.
Maybe.
It's okay.
So this time of year, especially this time of year, there's many people making videos on recycling filaments and reusing your old prints. And we talked about like 2 weeks ago, we talked about bottle printing, and we touched on some stuff. And then we looked at a few of the bottle printers where it razor blades the bottle out and then you can extrude filament. And
yeah, I think I wasn't here for that show, but yes, I do remember seeing that.
So we did that. And then there's the other method, which involves a little more manual work, and it's we'll call it an at-home process. So like, I don't know if you guys have seen like a filament factory or a manufacturing site where they actually like make 3D printing filament. It's basically extruded, pulled through some cooling liquid, water, and then spooled at a very accurate percentage, right? Like they've got, like the Prusa one has several different measurings along the way to make sure that the spool the spooled filament is actually the diameter you're expecting, right?
Yeah, the dimensional accuracy, and they very particular on how they wind it onto the spool too.
Yeah. And that process is difficult to bring home in a way that doesn't use virgin materials, right? So when you're looking at home extrusion of 3D printing filament, basically what it involves is cheating. So some of the systems have like, so you'll have the extruder still that the filament comes out onto the spool and it starts spooling it. To cool it though, you're going to use things like a fan or just open air. And that can lead to problems in itself where the spool is spinning, but if the filament's not a constant temperature, the diameter will shift, right? Because it's a thermoplastic and it becomes more elastic or less. And the problem becomes at home if you don't have these virgin materials, which are just little plastic pellets. I don't know if I have. I don't have anything up for it, but it's a plastic pellet, right?
Well, yeah, and they have the pellet extruders too.
Yeah. And so the problem becomes the next step when you want to recycle your old prints, right? Like I stopped printing benchies a while ago because all my printers are tuned. I don't really care about like the color testing. I can see what the color is on the spool. I buy consistent brands of filament now too, so I don't need to temperature tower and all that stuff.
If I've modified my printer,
and
then I have to kind of calibrate. Like when we put on the Sprite, I think I'll probably print something that I'm familiar with. So I might print a Benchy at that point.
But yeah, like your printer at that point wouldn't be I would say it's not set up anymore when you put a new part on it. So then you got to test it. But you got a box full of prints that you've done that nobody wanted to take, and so you're like, okay, well, I've got all these failed prints from this project. I'm just going to grind them up and use them. And like I've seen things from using a coffee grinder to grind prints up, which
that doesn't seem robust enough.
It can be robust enough for sure, but
for 5 minutes.
Well, the real problem becomes how much time do you want to put into that?
Well, and that's the thing, right? And then the other thing is each different color that you get of filament has different melting properties, right? So you may have a bin of wasted material, which is different spools from different spools. So the chemical properties of each of those chunks that you're grinding is going to be different. So you're not necessarily going to get a consistent filament at the end.
Well, I mean, the good
If
news is I think PLA is if you can get the like not so like if you're doing a PLA melt and run, if you get PLA with PLA, not tough PLA or like that'll be probably good enough. But like even then, right? Like if you happen to accidentally slip an ABS or a PETG in there,
you've ruined
you've
the
ruined the whole
batch.
batch.
Yeah.
And and then I've seen things like
What dirt? Just like you're gonna get probably
well,
contamination.
that's just it, right? Like you got to get rid of all the dust particles. I was watching. I wish I could remember who I was watching, but they did a run and they had like it was a hand crank grinder and they got it all extruding and it was great and it made it through the extruder like for the material made it through and it spooled onto a spool and then when he was printing it, one of the crushing blades had chipped off and he had a giant chunk of
Oh,
metal in the brass on
well,
end, right? And
well, and that's the thing, right? Like it's there's more to the process of kind of re-refining
yeah, it
the materials than just grinding it up. You've got to then
yeah.
separate and clean and wash and then
Oh
like
yeah.
you have
It's
to so I don't think home is the right place for that.
now if you wanted to, if you really really wanted to make filament at home, there's a couple of products. I think the one's called Devo and one's called Redetact. But like they're anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 US, which is not cheap for one to
No.
recycle like 30 benchies into a so like that'll be the most expensive recycled benchy ever for one thing.
Yeah.
And
I, and I just honestly like maybe I'm a bad person, but I can't be bothered.
well, I don't think so. Like the recycling thing can still happen, but I don't think the answer is to like re-extrude it into your own filament. There's
I,
recyclers and stuff out there, but
they should have a somewhere where you could have like with our toners, for example, a lot of the toner companies give you a shipping label
yeah, and you can ship them
and
back
you
or
can
whatever.
just ship it back. So we've got you when you're done, you throw your spool, you throw all your waste into the little Ziploc, throw it in the box that you bought it in, stick the label on, send it back to the company, and
Yeah,
then they can process it like that. That would be probably the ideal way
I
to
think
do it.
I think you're close for sure. Like at least then it would be off of your hands. Like the the problem is like Stig has he says too, right? Like he's got like a big tub full of stuff he's not sure what to do with and then he's like you could extrude it back into pallets and use them to make new filament and yeah, you could, right? Like it would be faster for you to turn a pallet of melted benchies into a filament, like almost like a rolling pin, than actually re-extrude it. But that would again that you'd have to have a lot of space
Hmm.
and that stuff. The the um the crux of it is to recycle this material at home. And it always comes up around Christmas time, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because like everybody's like, oh, well, people with 3D printers, so hey, get them this, and they can start doing this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the push, but I don't know. Um, the technology just isn't quite there, and there are a few companies that will take recycle, and you'll find recycled filament runs. But
Yeah.
like when you have recycled filament, you're probably still using 60 to 80% virgin material
Yeah,
with
because
the
they
recycled
kind
in.
of blend it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you get a carbon fiber filament.
Yeah.
It's not pure filament. It's a blend,
Yeah.
right?
And
And so
lots of the filament you buy for like sub $30 is actually some mix of recycled filament, because it is cheaper for that company just to have a bunch of white filament lying around to grind it back up and then throw a little bit of virgin pellet in there, and then boom, you got some white filament, right? So there's some cost savings there. But
Well, and then the other thing is like people want the rainbow filament, or people want, a specific color and whatnot. And if you don't know what waste you're getting back.
yeah, well,
So then you gotta, if you want it consistent, you would have to sort it.
yeah,
And then
in an
it's
actual plastics recycling facility, they would be using like mass gas spectrometers to sample the plastics before they separate them, or other, you can grind up filament, some flow. You could use, why can't I think of the word?
well they
You can
just
float it. You can do whatever with it, right?
they just recently changed it so that all the bottles, at least in Alberta lately, are clear.
Yeah,
So they're no longer, you can't have a green pop bottle, for example. They're all clear, so that way it makes the recycling easier, because
yeah.
you couldn't mix the colored ones with the light ones and whatnot. So.
Yeah, and Dominic has a point here too. Like, if you are a guitar player, actually, or even like an electronics technician, you could use a pick punch on a flat sheet of recycled material. So you could take the sheet of material, put it on some silicone, bake it, and then it would, flatten out, and you could use a pick punch. You could make the, like, I fix it kind of, those the spudgers and the
To pry
pries
the
and
priors
like
and stuff. Yeah.
that would be a good probably use for PLA, honestly, because like
If you did that stuff,
well,
if you don't do that stuff, then
that's just it, right? And like the guitar pick thing, I could see, like, I would do that just for fun, right? Like, make a sheet by foot, punch some picks out. That'd be not too hard, because you can buy pick punches. But like, the thing is like, at home, if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a spudger, well, then I have to make a silicone mold to melt the PLA into the form of a spudger. And like,
uh-oh.
It all just goes on. What's uh-oh?
Oh, we got some people that need to be banned.
Cool. Well,
I'll do it.
okay. But so I guess I should actually watch that window too. I had it on just on the one, but yeah, like that's one way. I mean, if in North America, and I'm sure like around the world, it was the same. There's a big push to reduce, reuse, recycle, right? And I think the reuse one in our current state is probably more important than the recycle, because it keeps things from recirculating and eventually becoming defunct. So if we can find ways to reuse, like failed prints, I have like failed prints under monitors, holding monitors and keyboards
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
I
right?
have
So
I have like, prints that I've done that I printed an extra one. Like,
yeah,
okay,
and I mean, we all know that there's a problem right now with, like, I forget how many tons it is, but it's a lot of tons of just plastic in the ocean, and then that degrades in the ocean, evaporates into the sky, and then rains on us.
yeah, and then microplastics,
Yeah, right.
and then also a lot of the stuff that doesn't get actually recycled just goes straight into landfill, which is unfortunate too.
Yeah, right.
And then eventually it'll break down into microplastics
Yeah,
and back into the market.
and
So
it's kind of, it's a hard thing. Like, so when I go on when we go like south for vacation or whatever, there's no recycling bins anywhere, and you're like, oh, so I just throw this pop bottle into the garbage?
there's more and more around,
Well,
but
not
it's
in
still.
like the Dominican and those
Oh,
places. And like,
oh
I
well,
don't, I
I
don't mean like
guess.
south, like the States. I mean like tropical, like, like those kind of.
But they probably don't have the infrastructure, right?
But neither do we. Like in Canada, like I forget, it's a lot. Like, we don't recycle like 60,
As
70
much.
percent of the stuff that gets put in recycling anymore. Right? Because we used to send it to, there was a Chinese recycler that was buying it all. And then they're like, nah, and then
Yeah.
now we're here, right?
Well, there's a place in Alberta that they're supposed to do it, and I just don't know that they are. Yeah.
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 And I mean, Helge has an interesting, and it does exist. So, like, Helge says, on the other hand, you should be able to coloring on the fly, like ink, and you can.
And I've there's a guy he made some mods for printers, right? And where you use Sharpies on color or white filament, and it will pull it through, and then you can actually print.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of cool.
But these printers
So
actually, like that printer itself exists.
yeah,
They've existed for a while. Like I think HP has one. I forget how much it was, but it's a lot.
yeah.
Um, but
But
yeah, like
there's a way to color your prints, but
the Sharpie looked okay. It
it
wasn't
was
bad.
it was a novel. It was a very cool concept,
Yeah.
like that
That was
they
Devin Montez. Now that you say it,
yeah, wasn't it at Murph or Earth or something that he
yeah,
showed it off?
yeah. But
Yeah.
it's neat. Like it's, but like coloring your filament, like injecting the ink into it and coloring it like that way would definitely um, help with cutting down some of the waste, because then instead of like having to make like all the colors under the rainbow and then ship them, you can just ship one product, right? And
But
if you use the right ink, you could pull it out of the product once it was done.
what is the drawback? Like, if you take ink and you heat it,
Hmm.
is there off gassing? Is there something dangerous happening? I don't know.
Well, and I mean, we've printed.
Right? We don't know that for
Well,
sure.
that's just it. And right now, like we've printed PLA for years, and we started with ABS, right? And then everybody's like, "Oh, ABS is awesome," and everybody put a printer in their room, and they started printing ABS, and it's like, "Well, that office gas is styrene. Maybe we shouldn't print ABS in the house." And
Yeah.
so then we started on PLA, and everybody's like, "PLA is safe. You don't have to worry about it. It's just perfect. Don't worry. Just print PLA." Well, turns out it might not be as safe as they thought, but it's still pretty safe, so it's still okay. But like maybe don't put it in the room beside your nightstand while you're sleeping, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they've defunct some of those, but yeah, exactly. It's like it's one of those things. Like you don't you're you print something, whether and you're heated up and whatnot, and you can't guarantee that there's not off gassing
yep,
or particles being scraped off and getting into the air
yep.
and this and that. Like there's no 100%,
There isn't, and like
right?
Helge mentioned the
You
palette
work
too,
you
right?
work in a workshop. You're gonna there's welding fumes.
Well, how many
There's like
mechanics, right?
right?
Like asbestos was a thing back, and any job you do, like even us we write a desk job in a computer, but when you open those up after they've been running a while, that smell is not good for you. Like
Yeah.
that's chemicals off the board that are harsh chemicals. But like Halj mentioned the palette,
Yeah.
and like the palette is a good like multi-material mixing colors, but what they need to do with the palette is actually make it like infill on the inside of the model during your color transition, so you don't have to waste filament.
Well, they do some of that, but
They still
it's
need a
not
transition tower.
and it's minimized, but it's still like I think we're on the palette 3, maybe the palette 4
I
now.
think it's just palette 3. Like we have the
Yeah,
palette, so we've used the palette 2,
2.
and honestly, I think where the palette I really think where the palette shines isn't in its multicolor um, aspect. It's in the fact that if you wanted to print a very long print job, you can load like 4 or 6 filaments of the same color.
Without having a
Yeah,
25-pound spool.
and then it's like, okay, now I can walk away from my print, and I know it's going to be okay. It looks like they actually have printers now at Mosaic, so that's interesting. But yeah, the new palette is, what number are we on?
I think it's 3 or 3 Pro.
I think it's 3. I want to say, yeah, three and
But
3 Pro. Yeah,
but those are out a year ago, so they got to have a new one coming out.
yeah,
soon.
eventually.
Yeah.
And like the palette's a cool system too, but the problem is it's a closed loop system. Like it's all in house, which is great. The development's great. Don't get me wrong; they're all great people. Love them. They're great. But if they ever went out of business, all of your stuff now becomes defunct because none of
Oh,
the
someone will think of something to
yeah.
make it. But
Um,
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But it is cool. It
Vic,
is cool.
Victor asked a question. What do you guys think about the bamboo printers, the carbon P1?
They look cool,
They
but
do
they
not waste
do.
a lot of color. Yeah, I mean,
It, yeah, you've got the little poop chute at the back where switches the color and drops it off. So they don't use the color transition blocks, but they do purge
yeah.
before they switch colors. So there is waste there for sure.
Mhm. And I mean, as a printer, they're fine. I think that they
I
deliver speed
If
and
Bamboo would like to send one to 3D Make It, we will not turn it down, and we will definitely show it off and give you our rock solid opinion on what we think of it.
um, well,
So if
like
you're out there, Bamboo,
I mean, they have done stuff uh, with their software, which was underhanded, and there's a few other things that aren't quite.
we talked about that, and it was good that they addressed it like immediately. So they didn't do the security on it, and then they addressed it right away.
But I'm
So
not talking about the security. They straight up stole DLLs from other companies to make drivers for their slicer.
oh that
And then they hid it. And the security thing was bad too. And I mean, they
yeah.
fixed that, right? But we've seen that all through industry, like the security part of it. Like, remember, I don't know, I think it was about 7 years ago, there was a pacemaker that Abbott made that wirelessly hooked to your phone or a device to control it, and there was no security, so people could just hijack your pacemaker and stop your heart.
Yeah,
And so
there's
like we see it, we see it, and that part's good. I'm just thinking more of the DLL, the driver issues that they had.
yeah, they didn't disclose, and they didn't like follow the open source licensing on
Right.
certain things and whatnot. So you got to, and I think they've learned from that, and hopefully they will, go forward. They'll make sure that they follow the rules and whatnot, because they don't. I think they've got a decent product, and they don't want lawsuits.
Yeah.
And so they've, because most of the guys are engineers from, what's the drone company?
DJI.
Yeah.
And like, to be fair, I don't think they did it maliciously at all. I think it was a mistake, but like you could see how another situation could be, somebody purposefully doing that because they didn't want to take the time either to write it themselves
Yeah.
or follow the proper channel and then hope they
Yeah.
just don't get caught.
Yeah. But I think they were so new to the industry and whatnot. They just didn't,
Yeah,
they admitted that they didn't, look at the security. They were focused on the product, and they weren't looking at the security. And they said that they reversed their action on that. So
yeah.
hopefully they'll just look at their whole software design program and kind of reevaluate it. So
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, they can
and
go the route of like almost, I shouldn't say almost, but lots of the printers that are sub $2,000 just utilize like Kira or Prusa and just build profiles, right? So they could go that route, but they want to build an ecosystem, and I can understand it.
mhm.
Um, I guess going back to like the carbon and P1, I'd probably buy the P1. But like the choices they made between the two, like to save the cost, is kind of weird. Like they cut stuff out that like didn't really save money. You know what I mean? Oh, we're just
Well,
gonna take these side brackets off. Well, that
well,
saved like $20.
well, except they use an aluminum. They were a solid aluminum case, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're actually saving a lot of money on that by not having stamped aluminum on there and whatnot. So, but the only real thing that mechanically they took off that was their lidar.
Well,
Right.
like
That was the big thing that they took off, which probably would cost a decent amount of money, that part. So that was the big thing they took off.
well, and then they like downgraded the screen, which, yeah, an Android little device will cost you more than the little touch screeny thing they put on
Yeah.
there. But
Yep.
like the sidings, the actual casings are actually
I like that you can
plastic.
custom cut well on the new one, the P1P.
No,
You
no. If you watch Thomas Sedlander, he had both of them side by side, and like the side panels were aluminum, but like the actual coverings are just like a plastic molding. Security is important. I have found printers running Octoprint by searching on Shodan. Yeah, I mean, you can do that all the time, right?
yeah,
Um,
but yeah, security is important. You shouldn't have non HTTP. You shouldn't have HTTP or FTP just open. Like it should. There's no reason why all the libraries are available for everyone to use HTTPS or SFTP or any of the other secure communication. Like, there's no reason not to have that,
mhm.
really.
And I think like when you look at the printer, like the P1, like you mentioned, the Wi-Fi, like that shouldn't fall on the consumer to find out and fix, right? Like, and I think they did fix it eventually, but like,
Really quickly, like they addressed it right away. And there's, I think, one that they said is coming, final fix that's coming out in January.
yeah,
But as long as you patched your firmware, it patched the local vulnerabilities on the printer. So yeah.
we do have alternatives to Raspberry Pis, Dominic. There's actually quite a few, but none of them. The Banana Pi is close, but again, it's post dated. There's the chip. There's oh man, I wish my brain
Um,
worked. There's lots of them.
Big Tree Tech has
Yeah,
their ones.
and most of them work okay. The microcomputer stuff is fine. I wonder. The last news I heard from Raspberry Pi was they were switching manufacturers.
Yeah, they're prioritizing their corporate
Yeah,
um, customers, and then they are bundling a certain amount of ones that they release in batches to resellers. So it's not the best situation, but hopefully we'll get some more Raspberry Pis soon.
yeah,
I
and
I personally have enough,
yeah,
but I feel sorry for anyone out there that
I,
you
I,
know
I have more than enough.
wants one now.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Like, but like there are other products. Like the Asus one has been around for a while. That one's just
Yeah,
more expensive. There's a Libre computer, it's called. That one's good.
you can get the Creality thing.
Creality, the Udo, that's actually a pretty good one. Banana Pi is around. The Orange Pi is around. Um,
Now, some of them don't have builds for Octoprint, so you're gonna have to use an unofficial build if you or compile it yourself.
I mean,
Um,
lots of little micro guys can run little Ubuntu now too.
yeah.
So then there's
So
like the Linux distro, but
right. Yeah. So you just if you're not going with the native Raspberry Pi, you will have a few more hoops to jump through, shall
mm,
we say, to get the product working. But some of them are even faster than a Pi.
yeah. Well, and that's
You
the
know,
thing, right? Like
so
the Pi itself actually is, but finding
the
something
Pi,
that
I
does
gotta
all
say
of it does, right?
the Pi 4 is pretty powerful.
It is right. Like the new thing I'm running is called AdGuard Home on it, and that's the new DNS filter in the house here. But like, yeah, like it doesn't have a problem keeping up with like just queries on queries on queries. Like it's great.
Mm.
But like when we talk, just to circle back to Stig, and I mean you made the point too. When if you're going to use your Raspberry Pi or any local, thing externally, one like Greg says, and make sure it's not using unencrypted traffic. Two, make sure you know what it's actually running. So like the
Yeah.
Raspberry, so Octoprint for example, you could be like, yeah, my HTTPS is sweet. I've got my username and password changed. That's awesome. But none of the services behind it actually are locked behind your username and password. So like, for example, like the webcam, you have to actually go in and lock the FF Showdown. Right?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's wide open to
Yeah.
the web.
And it's kind of
That's why you want to keep it behind your firewall and not necessarily poke holes through your firewall.
yeah, because I mean the firewall's there for a reason.
And the password's raspberry, everyone,
The username is
unless you change it.
Pi and Raspberry is not secure.
And
And
I do like that it warns you now if you haven't changed the default password. So it will warn you that you aren't secure because you left it wide open and you didn't change the password. So it is, they do make an effort to make you aware now of maybe a faux pas that you didn't realize that you had left open.
yeah, and I mean, as an added layer of security, especially like it might not work for everything, but like for I wouldn't call it security. I would call it peace of mind. Like with your 3D printer, if you're worried about people logging into an Octoprint instance that you've shared over the internet, and you're like, oh man, this just isn't, it's not safe. Well, buy a smart switch and turn that thing off when you're not there,
Mm-hmm.
because then at least it's not totally accessible. Now, could they hack your? The security rabbit hole is a bad one, right? Because it's like, well, they could do this, and then they could do that, and then they would get in here.
What
and
if they get into your network? It's over.
Yeah,
If you
they
because
gotcha.
you know, I mean, you might have an old smart TV that doesn't even have proper security on it. You might have like that's the problem with the Internet of Things.
Mhm.
Those things don't always get patched over time,
Yeah.
and those things now become a vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a slippery slope. So yeah, there's all this cool stuff that you can get and buy these. Oh, look at this light bulb.
Yeah.
Well, now that light bulb now is a potential point where, like Stig says, you can go on Shodan and find it and hack it.
At some point, as a consumer, you're either okay with it or you're not, right? Like that's basically what it comes to, right? Like, do you want the smart light bulb or do you not want the smart light bulb? Or do you want Octoprint or do you not? And then you're comfortable with the risk that
And
will
yeah, and
follow that.
Stig has a point. Like, yeah, you can have multiple networks separated out by multiple firewalls and whatnot, and VLANs and stuff. All that helps mitigate it. But I mean, actually having fully patched software and fully updated firmware on devices and whatnot, there's no exception for that. Like, I mean, if you don't do that stuff, then you're vulnerable.
Yeah. I like how it says there's an old saying, locks are for honest people, and he's not wrong.
Right?
Greg, I want to circle back quick. I was thinking the X1, not the carbon, with the plastic. So the X1 is plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. The carbon is,
yeah,
that's
it's
the one you could throw at a home intruder.
yeah. No, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
that's what
just want to circle back.
and if I honestly, if it was on my wish list for Santa to bring me or whatever, I would want the carbon with the multicolor adapter.
Isn't that the only
Hint,
one
hint,
you
nudge,
can,
nudge.
Yeah, Santa out there, please. I mean, so like security, security starts with simple things at home. Everybody should probably use some sort of ad blocking because that's 90% how people can fish and get in.
Who has checked that their firmware on their router is the latest firmware?
Or your printer, or your
printer,
your Octoprint, the light bulb. That's
your
the
Windows
real,
or Linux is up to date.
Yeah. Don't ignore it when it pops up and says, hey, there's a new version of this. You might have a problem with the new version for like a couple minutes. Off button is good to have. Yeah.
100% agree. 100% agree. Turn. If it's off and not powered, they can't hack it.
Yeah.
They can steal it out of your house once they get inside, but
Victor, I've been thinking about, and I know Greg has too, that like we should do like It would obviously be oriented towards 3D printers, but like just a general, like, this is a security checklist for your printer, and like you could probably apply it to more things than that.
Well, and that's kind of what we were talking about with this workshop that we were talking about.
Mhm.
Is we go over, security, because if you do have an older printer with, there's safety and security that you can implement on it, right, to make it safer, to make it more secure. And so those are kind of the things that we want to discuss in maybe a little more nerdy detail in the workshop. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, not don't be scared. This isn't a scary
No,
thing.
no.
It's just that
It
it's
it's just one of those things. Like, just take a few minutes. Like a lot of your routers now, for example, if you just go into them, log in, there is a firmware update section,
yeah.
and they will automatically pull the update for you, but you have to tell it. Now, some of the new ones, you can schedule it so that it will check on a regular basis for an update and reboot at like 2 a.m. So there's it depends on the brand you're running, right?
Mhm.
So some of them you'll have to manually go make sure that you have the same revision and this and that. It's a little more in depth if it's an older one, but it's still something that anyone can do,
Mhm.
and it's worth doing, just to make sure, because you might get new features that you didn't even know that were there, to make it more secure, to maybe filter out ads, to maybe add a VPN in,
Yep.
so that you can remotely connect to your router to then get to your printer, and now it's more secure.
We actually had that conversation on the Patreon Discord. So speaking of which, hold on. I mean, this is going to come as a shocker to everybody what I'm doing. Hold on. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Complete shock.
Shocker. Thanks everybody who's on the list. Thanks Helge
Yep.
at the top. Thanks everybody else. You guys are all awesome. And yeah, we appreciate
and
all you do.
and we do discuss a lot of this stuff in Discord.
Yep.
And if you are a member, you get access to the Discord, and we do cover that, because I think Ray was the one asking about different solutions, because he needed something that had a little more secure Wi-Fi.
Well,
And
WPA 3, which technically Wi-Fi 6 is supposed to include. So I'm not sure how they got away.
It depends. Well, it depends, because if you got some of the earlier
yeah, but
Wi-Fi
it was supposed
6,
to be like forward compliant.
yes, but if you got some of the early stuff, they didn't actually implement it.
6E, the new version, does. It has to have WPA 3, which
Yep.
was broken about 2 weeks after it came out. So, but it's still, again, the idea here isn't that stuff can be broken, and it's not that like the idea of security is that I'm doing something, right? Like I am taking steps, not that because nothing in life is going to be perfect.
The hackers are going to go after the low hanging fruit.
Yep.
So they're going to go after the people and the devices. Let's say devices, because they're not necessarily going after people specifically, but they're going after the devices and vulnerable things that have not been updated, right? Because they can scan it, they can find it, and they can exploit it. And that's what they're looking for, is the exploitation of those devices that no one's maintaining.
And remember, Microsoft, Apple, the bank, the power company, the tax man, they'll never call you.
No. No. If you get a call, it's
Not
from
them.
someone trying to scam you.
Yeah. So just hang up and then call the person that they said they were, to make sure they weren't calling you.
But, if they say this is Greg or David, we don't have your number.
No,
so
we don't
it
call
won't.
But I mean,
mind you, Stig did give us his number,
that's
so
true,
we could technically we could call him.
Yeah, I was just reading Stig's last comment, and that's what we deal. We deal a lot. Data at rest is data that's not secure. That's the thing, and so you have to think about ways to mitigate. And but that's far beyond the topic of today's topics. And I'd like to thank everybody, including Greg, for coming.
Well, it's good to have you back.
I mean, I'll try not to hurt myself or get sick in the next week again.
Yeah, me too. because I don't need that.
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah.
So if you haven't, we'd love to see your designs to come in for the build offs.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't forget, get it in info at 3dmakeit.ca.
If you don't want us to print it and you want to print it, that's fine. But you can pop stuff in. It's just informal. We don't have a solid like prize idea, but prizes will be given.
Well, we roughly know, but we have to confirm. So we'll figure something out here right away.
But until next week, are we doing? I should ask. Are we going to do a Patreon stream next week since it's Christmas the week after?
We could, or we could do it like another day because next week is the design off prize thing. So we could have people on because
I was going to say it could
people
be a big
that
hangout.
people might maybe we won't just be Patreon. We could just open it up to anyone who entered.
I mean, that's okay, but we won't put the link on, say, like front facing Twitter or something like that. That'd be bad.
Well, we'll put it up because if you entered, you would send us to info at 3dmakeit.
Yeah.
So that means we can reply directly to you.
Yeah, and I don't know what the holiday plan that week would look like, and I know probably it's a weird couple weeks because New Year's Eve is the 1st, right? So we'll get back to you guys.
We'll be doing some streams. I think I'm going to be. That's maybe the week that I'm putting on my my Sprite extruder and doing some mods.
We could both do it
at the same time. Yeah.
But anyway, yes. Thank you guys. Heck of a fun stream. Thanks for coming. Until next time.
Bye.